All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our general meeting number 3. So today we've got some special things planned. Can I get the next slide, please? So I wanted to start out with a quote from the friendship line. It says, "Our connection to others is what binds us to life." So I really like this quote because I think it really represents kind of what our mission as a club is in partnering with the Institute on Aging as well, is to just kind of help build a stronger connection amongst lonely adults, and also to connect community members at UCLA towards a common goal. And I wanted to start out with this quote because, can I get the next slide? Because we've got an amazing person from the friendship line to speak with us today. Her name is Shannon Carter, and she's our volunteer coordinator. So Shannon, feel free to take it away.
Thanks, Fiza. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. It's nice to see you all. I love that you all are here and that you're engaged in this amazing club. And that you're interested in working with older adults. It's something that I'm really passionate about. I've been working with the older adult community, I don't know, for like 10 years, maybe a little longer. And it's not something I ever thought I was particularly interested in. I didn't really have close relationships with grandparents when I was growing up. Most of them had died before I was born. So I, was almost afraid to talk to older adults. And just as I started getting into the workforce and, engaging with the older adult community, I just found my conversations were just so enriching, and I really loved just hearing stories from folks and hearing their experiences. And I think Friendship Line is such a great way to really have meaningful conversations with older adults and adults with disabilities. So I'm the volunteer coordinator, and I've been with Friendship Line for almost a year, but I had heard of the Institute on Aging for years prior. It's really well known in San Francisco and the Bay Area, and Friendship Line actually serves the entire United States. So we get calls from folks all over the country. And a lot of folks calling in from California. So we're really well known in that manner. And as the volunteer coordinator, we recruit volunteers. So we're always looking for folks. It makes sense that that's what we do. We have staff members who take calls from folks calling into Friendship Line. They do more assessments. So that's the difference in the role between volunteer and staff member. If y'all are ever interested in, potentially getting work with Friendship Line, there's always kind of that opportunity, especially if you start out as a volunteer. Usually we look to the volunteer pool to see if folks are interested in working with us in the future too. So with volunteering, we do ask for quite a bit of a commitment. Generally speaking, we ask for 6 to 8 hours per week for about 6 months. If you can't do 6 to 8 hours, there is the option to potentially do 4 hours. We have an inbound service and we have an outbound service for callers. So folks who are doing inbound will be calling into you. Folks doing outbound, we would be calling to them. So we would call them generally on a set schedule. So, let's say on Tuesday mornings, we call Tom at 10 a.m. And you would call Tom every Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. So that's kind of the difference. And you are able to do about 4 hours for the outbound calls. Let's see what else. If you're wanting to get into mental health field, if you're wanting to get into social services, if you're just interested in engaging with other humans, I think this is a great role for you. I think, and Fiza can attest, she has done this for almost 9 months, 10 months. But, has done a ton of hours on the lines and really, I think has had a great experience, and she can tell you more about her experience on Friendship Line. But the fact that she's created a whole club, I think attests to how her experience has been. We do a lot of training for our volunteers, so you wouldn't be thrown into, taking calls right after starting. The process is that you would do an initial interview over the phone, generally 15 minutes conversation, just hearing about your interest. And then after that, you would do another interview by video, like Zoom. And we would go more in depth into questions, just kind of about, how you would handle particular calls, that kind of thing. And then from there, you would do some online training through our Talent LMS portal, where you would have access to trainings on active listening, suicide, and risk assessment. Videos by our founder, Dr. Patrick Arbor, who Faiza shared the quote from today. He started Friendship Line about 48 years ago because he saw a need, essentially. He was on a crisis line and was noticing that there weren't a lot of older adults calling, and was getting curious as to why they weren't calling. And so when he did some research, he realized that folks weren't calling in not because there wasn't a need, but because there wasn't a comfort level in talking to folks on a crisis line. So he created the Friendship Line as a way to kind of ease folks into talking about mental health, and also as a way to help tie people to life. Those connections that folks make with our volunteers and our staff members over the phone can tie them to life and really provide meaningful relationships for folks who are feeling really isolated, especially, now that we've been in this pandemic for over a year. I think folks are continuing to feel that isolation very acutely. And so the trainings online are just about 8 to 9 hours. They're done on your own time. You don't have to sit there for 8 or 9 hours straight. You fit them in where you can. And then from there, you would do some more direct training, generally with one of our staff members, maybe one of our volunteer or one of our on-duty supervisors. They might share more just about what the process is of taking calls on the line. There's a lot of technical stuff that you would have to do training in. So we have two web-based kind of centers. One is our database for our calls, and then the other is our actual call center website that we use. So everything is fully remote and will remain fully remote, for this foreseeable future. And, there's some training involved in that. Faiza's done it. We have tons of folks who have done it. It's totally doable. I'm sure all of you are very tech savvy and will be completely comfortable with it. But it does take some getting used to, and just navigating our database and being able to search folks. We get a lot of repeat callers, and so you can search their phone number and just get a little backstory into what's been going on for them and while you're on the phone with them. So that's stuff that we do training on. And then you would essentially do about 5 training shifts when you're fully onboarded and trained, where one of our on-duty supervisors would essentially listen in on your calls, provide feedback for you. We really want to be there to support you while you're taking your first calls in those first 5 shifts, and then beyond, of course. There's always on-duty supervisors to support you. You can send them a message and say hey, will you listen in on this call? I feel like this is getting weird, or I don't know what to do. I really think that I need some support. And so the supervisors will listen in on the call with you. They'll, debrief with you after the call. If you also end a call and you're man, that was kind of weird, I probably should have reached out to a supervisor, you can always, contact one of us for support. We are there to support you. We want this to be a really great learning experience. We want it to be enriching. We never want you to be taking a call with you for the entire week. We want you to be able to really debrief and just kind of talk it out, because while we're not offering therapy services over the phone, we're offering conversations and with empathy. There's still a lot that comes up. There's a lot that's going to come up for you while you're on the lines. If this becomes something that you're interested in, there's a lot that comes up for our staff, and we like to talk about it because I think a lot of folks that work on Friendship Line are more oriented to mental health and want to, be able to talk things out and come to a good space with our support for our callers and be able to support them further. So yeah, that's the process for volunteering. There's always supervisors who are available to support you throughout your volunteer experience. You're having conversations with folks. There's no script. And some people have asked me that, like, oh, is there a script that I should use? And it's, you're creating this individual interaction with this caller, and it's such a unique experience for both of you. So we can't create a script. Of course, we have assessments for suicide prevention and stuff like that, which would be needed if there were any red flags that the caller was bringing in. But aside from that, you can talk about your favorite musicians. You can talk about what you did yesterday. You can talk about your pets. Like, the sky's the limit. So yeah, we would love to, have all of you volunteer with us. Our process is a little slow right now. I am working very part-time at the moment. So it's kind of going between myself and our other supervisors and our director. So just, if you are interested, sorry, my dog is barking in the background. Perfect for the recording. But yeah, if you are interested, let FISA know, and we can, make sure this process gets started. And I think that's all I have. Does anyone have any questions?
Hi, I have a question. First of all, thank you for your presentation. But also, is this an opportunity that would be able to be done over the summer, or is it only school year for members of this club?
That's a great question. It's all year round. We are open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days of the year. We don't have volunteers or interns overnight. Our hours are essentially 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. But yeah, summer, definitely, we could definitely use all the support over the summer. And yeah, weekends, if you have packed schedules during the weeks with classes, we have weekends available. So yeah, any other questions? I see a question in the chat. How long do the calls last? Great question. Generally speaking, our calls last about 10 minutes. And we recognize that that's a short amount of time. We would love to be able to offer more time. But just with the amount of staffing and then the amount of calls we have, they're 10 minutes. Of course, if someone is actively in crisis, you would not hang up with them at 10 minutes. We would want to keep them on the line until they were in a safe space. If you ever do have someone who is actively in crisis, you have to reach out to the supervisor. So that's part of, the length of time of the call. You want to make sure the supervisor's on the line, listening and on the call and supporting you in that. But generally speaking, if not, if the caller's not in crisis, it's 10 minutes. California callers get about 2 calls per day, and then folks outside of California get 1 call per day. But it doesn't mean that we block their number or prevent them from calling. It just means that the call turns from a conversational 10-minute chat versus a crisis call. So if someone's called 20 times in one day, you're not going to, have them talk with you for 10 minutes about, what their cat was doing in that moment. You're going to, assess for crisis rather than that. And it definitely does happen. Okay, and how many calls would you say the Friendship Line receives per day? It's in the thousands. We get, I think it's about 6,000 calls per day, and that's including overnight too. Yeah, and they're definitely back to back. It's not a like slow paced environment. Like if you're looking for something where like casual, I think the outbound callers might be a little slower because you're the one making the call. But when you're logged in on our call center, those calls are coming in every couple minutes. So you'll hang up on one, you'll have 2 minutes essentially to wrap up your notes, and then you're taking the next call. It's pretty rare that there's a lot of downtime between. And then another question is, do volunteers get to talk to the same people on shifts, or are you talking to new people every time? So, generally when you're on the same shift, let's say you do Thursdays from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., there might be the same folks calling in, but there's definitely a lot of new callers too. So you get a mix of both. And I think as time goes on, you learn who are the repeat callers and, who folks are new to you. Generally speaking, we have around 7 or 8 staff and volunteers on the lines at a time. So, you might usually talk to Freddie, around 7:30, but because there's all these other folks also taking calls, Freddie might have ended up talking to Fiza tonight or to Maria. Yeah, any other questions?
I think we had heard that we would be trying to like train all of our members kind of together on a certain schedule.
Mhm.
And we were wondering, would that be like 1 day per week or 2 days per week, or just kind of what that schedule would look like?
That's a great question. That schedule has not been planned out yet. So TBD. I'm sorry, I don't have more for you. Essentially, my assumption is that it would be more like we're going to do, the technology portion of the training, and we're going to do it on a Thursday night from 6:30 to 8:30. And so, in just needing to figure out kind of the overall group availability and like fitting it in would be our best option. So, I think having one offering right now and getting as many people who could go to that would be how we would start it. And then, essentially when we have the bandwidth for another onboarding group, then we would probably, have another time and, get as many folks as possible there.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And then is there a specific deadline for the application? No, there's no deadline. We're always taking applications. So if you, are thinking about it right now and then your, finals get crazy and you're wanting to postpone, there's no deadline. We always take applications. Cool. Any other questions? Awesome. Well, Fiza, do you have anything?
No, I was just gonna say, if you guys think of anything later, feel free to reach out to me, and if I can't answer it, I will ask Shannon.
Perfect.
But yeah, I think we're good.
Okay. Awesome. I like really appreciate that all of you are here and working towards this goal, and it's definitely very much appreciated. And I think that it's a really cool experience to have, especially like the fact that like we can do it remotely right now. I think it's really neat. Pre-pandemic, there's a call center in San Francisco that we've only had volunteers come to, so there wasn't this remote option. So it's pretty cool that we can like have volunteers even from UCLA. It's not that far away, but really neat that we can do that.
Thank you so much, Shannon.
Yeah, thank you.
It's been amazing. Yeah, I think they know about it. They know everything about it now.
Awesome. And yeah, feel free, to reach out. I'm slow on the emails, but I will respond. So, Fiza, feel free. Actually, I'll just put my email in the chat too. So feel free to reach out and ask any questions if anything else came up too.
And actually, real quick, I just wanted to ask if people could raise their hand if they filled out the Friendship Line application yet, just to get a show of hands. I know some of you guys have probably not touched it, but I don't know if that would be helpful for you to know, Shannon. But
yeah, no, that's great. This is
even
great.
board team, if whoever has filled it out, please raise your hand as well. Okay.
That's great. Thank you.
It's a work in progress.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's definitely helpful. Oh, perfect. Great. Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you all so much.
Thank you, Shannon.
Yeah. Enjoy
you
the
for
rest of your
coming.
meeting. Yeah. Gladly to be here.
Nice to meet you.
You too. Take care.
You too.
Bye.